Oh, hello. In today's video, we're going to discuss the Xenos faction preview that was published today on Warhammer Community. So we're going to get right into it with the Commandos. So the Commandos have retained their Throat Slitters special rule, which allows them to charge while concealed. Really powerful rule. Good to see it's not been meddled with. The Harpoon equipment is quite interesting. So it's gained lethal 5-up. It's gained 2 inches of range, which is a change they seem to be making across the board to all pistols. Apparently the Harpoon is also a pistol, but it's a big change that's happening in the game. The pistols are changing from 6 to 8. And it's got the slightly standard way now they're porting over equipment. So, as we know, equipment in the new upcoming edition of Kill Team is team-wide, and there's a couple of different ways. Sometimes they just let everybody on the team benefit from the equipment at the same time, but more commonly we see this framing where everybody has the equipment, but one model per turning point can use it. And then if that model dies, next turning point, a different model can use it. So you kind of have this weird quantum shared harpoon. Like, I'm not sure it makes sense. What's my story here? Do all commandos have harpoons, or is there one harpoon and they're kind of enemy at the gate saying, like, picking up the harpoon after the other guy dies? Not quite sure, but it does feel very gamey, but it feels fair and balanced. So I guess we'll just have to accept it, right? The Crumpum tactical ploy is unchanged. Let's look at the Commando data card. So, again, some changes on here. We see that the pistol goes up from range 6 to range 8, again, which is pretty common across the board. And it gains the severe rules. So, if you don't remember or you haven't looked through my video about the leaks, if you roll no crits, you get to promote from normal to a crit. That's severe. So there's a buff, but it loses a point of damage on the crit. So it used to have a damage profile of 1-1. Now it has a damage profile of 1-0, so a little bit of a nerf. Otherwise, totally unchanged. And it's worth saying, as I zip through these and I say, this is totally unchanged, this is that. They have made lots of changes to the wording. The wording is much clearer. The new edition of Kill Team is a much superior product for the new player. Quite honestly, these videos, the way I'm framing them, are not aimed at new players. I'm trying to provide a service by having gone and done the legwork of comparing everything to what it was like in the previous edition. Once these release in full, I will do full faction rundowns without reference to the previous edition. But while we're in the hype week, looking at the old teams, I feel like most people watching are people who are veterans of the previous edition and want to know, what are those changes. It's worth saying, we don't always have those changes in their proper context. Understood? Okay? So there could be other things that mean the game plays differently or things don't quite work the way that we think they do. But I still think I'm providing a useful service. Let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree. Let's look at the Farstalker Kinband. So, really interestingly, and some people were saying this on my video where I looked at all the stuff from the leaks, especially when I came to looking at the generic terrain and things like that. And we saw in the leaks, didn't we, it was the Vantage Point leak, right? We saw that when you're on Vantage Point, you now, if you're shot from a Vantage Point and you're on concealed behind an objective, you now get to have a second cover save or run your cover saves together to make a crit. And some people said, well, that's the Kinband's ability. And it does seem like they've lost, the Farstalker Kinband have lost Rogue, but they've gained an entirely brand new ability called Farstalker. So I'm going to give you the dramatic reading of the Farstalker ability. Farstalker. In the ready step of each strategy phase, you can change the order of up to 3 friendly Farstalker Kinband operatives that are not within control range of enemy operatives. Whenever it's your turn to counteract, you can change the order of one friendly Farstalker Kinband operative that's not within control range of enemy operatives instead. This still counts as you counteracting, so activation alternates back to your opponents afterwards, but doesn't count as that friendly operative's counteraction for the turning point. So, this seems really cool because it lets you, what this is for, just to be very clear, let's say in turning point 1 you start in conceal because everybody does, you flip to engage because you can do that in turning point 1 now, you shoot, you do something, and now your Kroot is stood there on engage. You get to the next turn, start of turning point 2, in the strategy phase right at the start, you can flip some of your engaged Kroot back onto conceal, right? And then when it's your turn to activate those Kroot, they can then flip back onto engage, so they can keep themselves safe for all that time when they're not activating. Really useful ability. The second part is saying that you can flip an order in effectively what used to be called the Overwatch step. Now, again, the most common use of this, I reckon, would be to take somebody that's engaged and to use Overwatch to flip them to conceal. Right? What you could do if you really wanted to, because it does say it doesn't count as the friendly operative's counteraction for this turning point, if you can see that you're going to get multiple, should use the new terminology, right? Multiple counteractions, then you could use the first counteract to flip the order from conceal to engage, and then when it comes back round to you, if he's still alive, use the second counteract to shoot. That's a possibility. I think that's going to be much rarer. I think you're mostly going to be using it just to get people back ducking behind walls. Toxin Shot, massively improved. So, Toxin Shot is a piece of equipment. You used to be able to buy it. It had limited, so it can only be used once. And it overwrote your weapon's profile with the basic profile, which was like 4/4 damage or something like that. Toxin Shot now, I'll read it out. Once per turning point, when a friendly Farstalker Kinband operative is performing the shoot action, and you select a Kroot rifle, Kroot scattergun, or the focused profile of dual Kroot pistols, you can use this rule. If you do so, until the end of the action, that weapon has the lethal 5-up and stun weapon rules. So it's a straight buff, and it's doing that thing that I talked about with the Commandos, with the Harpoon, where the way they've ported it over is they've made it a floating piece of equipment, if you like, and I'm very much reminded of Enemy at the Gates, right? The one with the rifle shoots, the one without the rifle picks up the rifle when he dies and shoots. So you can use this on one model, and then the next turning point, even if that model has died, you can use the equipment on another model. How you want to... There is a bit of ludonarrative dissonance there, right? Do they all have toxin shots, or are they... I mean, I'm not going to say this every single time, but it does kind of melt my mind a little bit. Do they all have toxin shots, or are the toxin shots just being dropped and picked up? It was the same with the grenades when we looked at the leaks, though, so yeah, same difference. And they also have Slip Away, which I have written helpfully nothing about. I think it's probably unchanged. But I've not written myself any notes because that was dumb. That was dumb, Phil. Slip Away. You use this firefight ploy during a friendly Farstalker Kinband operative's activation. During the activation, the operative can perform the fallback action for 1 AP less. I feel like this is something that they already had. So, okay, good. A Kroot data card. So once again, that pistol's gone up to range 8. That's just what we're doing with pistols this edition for some reason. By a tape measure. I'm really cranky because I defended the measurement widgets and the shapes and the colours and all these things last edition, and I stand by those arguments for last edition. But now they're putting in these range of 8, these 8s, there's 8s in places, that in other places we find 7s and 5s and all these things, which is probably really good for the game. The bit that makes me cranky is that they've put in movement tools in the box, the same shape as the previous movement tools, and they're not fit for purpose. You're going to want to measure 8, and you haven't got anything 8 inches long, so you can't easily... if you want to measure it whether your pistol is in range now, you're going to have to get your 6-inch movement tool, and then your little triangle held to the 2-inch side, and balance them together. And at that point, it would be better to have a tape measure, surely. So, it annoys me. The change doesn't annoy me. Going back to tape measures doesn't really annoy me that much. It would be even better if they had designed some kind of movement tool so it could be in the box, so you could have a playable experience in the box with all these intermediate ranges, right? But it really annoys me that the movement tools that they provided that are the same as last edition's movement tools, but with numbers instead of shapes. But now there's loads of things that are not, because we've got range 8 on all our pistols. Anyway, strange thing to get wound up about, perhaps, but it's like, by tape measure, it's going to make your life infinitely better now with this new. Yeah. Still don't think it was the case for the previous edition, but now, yeah. So there are some other changes here. Balanced on the dual Kroot pistols, on the focused ability, has been improved to ceaseless, and there's a lot of this going on, and we'll see this a couple of times in this article. Balance getting improved to ceaseless. Remember, balance is reroll 1. Ceaseless is now reroll any one result, right? So balance is 1 dice, ceaseless is pick up all the 1s, all the 2s, all the 3s, whatever you want. Well, not all the 3s in this guy's case, because he's sitting on 3s. So you're going to get more rerolls. You're never going to get less rerolls, so it's a big buff. Quick draw is basically the same, but now they've said that you can flip to engage in order to do the quick draw, so it's got a buff, which is good. Salvo's interesting. This used to be a horrendously worded rule, which basically meant you can shoot twice with your dual Kroot pistols, which used to just have that focused profile. So the salvo rule used to be you can shoot twice, basically, but it was worded like it was the biggest piece of word salad you've ever seen. Now they've separated out the one that can shoot twice into a separate gun. And it's like, you can shoot twice for 1 AP with the salvo gun, but you do lose out on ceaseless and lethal 5-0, which didn't used to be the case. So, a slight nerf there, I guess, but a buff to quick draw. Good. Pathfinders. Marker lights. So I don't want to read the whole marker light rule because the gist of it is the same, but there are actually some substantial changes to marker lights that you might miss. So first I want to look at here is let me just get my laser pointer. Yeah, I haven't seen that in a while. So marker lights. It says here, once during their activations, whenever an enemy operative that has any of your marker light tokens performs the dash, charge, fallback, or reposition action, remove one of those tokens. So it used to be that you lost 1 marker light a turn automatically in the ready operative stage, I want to say, but one fell off a turn. Now you need to move to lose them, but it does mean if you move and dash. Reposition and dash, you can rid yourself of 2 marker lights in 1 turn. But you have burnt 2 APL to do so, but maybe you wanted to move and dash anyway. Marker lights are now capped at 4, right? So they used to be 5, so it's been 4. What have they done to the table? They've changed the table quite a lot. So balanced and saturate used to be the other way around. It used to be 1 marker light got you balanced, 2 marker lights got you saturate, as was then called no cover, but so balance and saturate have been swapped. The old number 3 was to give the Pathfinder +1 BS. That's been removed. Okay? And then the other 2, the not being obscured and the Seek Light, they effectively used to be the old 4 and 5, and they've been brought down. Now, obviously, they weren't as tidily written as that, but the rules that used to be there for marker lights basically amounted to what's there now, but we really have had a language upgrade. That's the biggest thing I want to take away about this edition of Kill Team. Oh my gosh, it's so more accessible in terms of its words. Photon Grenade. Photon Grenade's been totally reworked. It's no longer a sort of better frag grenade, it's now a sort of utility grenade. So let's read it. Once per turning point, a friendly Pathfinder objective that has the marker light action on the data card, excluding the drone, can perform the following unique... That's a weird way of phrasing it. Can perform the following unique action. Photon Grenade, 1 action point. Select a valid target for this operative and roll 1d6. On a 3-up, until the end of the operative's next activation, subtract 2 inches from its move stat, and it can't perform the dash action. An operative cannot perform the action while within engagement range. I don't like this, and I don't like this because it has randomness, but then a part of my brain's like, yeah, but if it was a grenade, and it had to hit on a 3 before it did any damage, you'd be fine with it. Because you're playing Warhammer, and so you're fine with the concept that ranged weapons have to roll to hit, or they don't get to do anything. So why does it feel really bad when it's a utility rule that has to roll to do something? Like, I don't know. And it could just be me and others in the community being really dumb. But yeah, there it is. So I do not care for Photon Grenade. We've also got a new tactical ploy in Point Blank Fusillade, which as far as I can tell is totally new, so I'm going to read it out in full. Point Blank Fusillade. Use this firefight ploy, thank you, when a friendly Pathfinder operative, excluding drones, is retaliating. If it wasn't within control range of enemy operatives at the start of that activation or counteraction, I'm rapidly hating the word counteraction, but there we go. At the start of that activation or counteraction, you can use one of its ranged weapons as a melee weapon, excluding a weapon that has the word grenade in its name. During that sequence, if you do, you cannot block during the sequence, and the following rules have no effect on its weapons until the end of the sequence: devastating, piercing, and torrent. So it's interesting. It's cool and thematic. Potentially, it's powerful because the Pathfinders probably have some really big guns that opponents probably thought they were safe from when they were in melee. And so you charge, you get 4. If you're not going to die in one hit, and you've got like a massive rail rifle or something, then maybe you want to use this to put some decent amount of damage on your opponent before you die. Yeah, pretty cool. Oh, I don't want a laser pointer. I don't want a laser pointer at all. Let's, get rid of that. No. Professionalism. Right, you won't find any of that here. The Tau data card. So he used to have an ability called Holographic Readout that gave out a free mission action. That's gone. He also used to have, mainly as a bit of flavour, a bonding knife, which was the same profile as the gun butt, but gave him balanced. That's gone. So that's interesting. The Art of War abilities are totally changed. So it used to be that the Monk Car will give you a free dash, and the Koyan will give you double cover and a free mission action. Now the Monk Car gives you a straight +1 to your move stat, which is, obviously it's less possible move than a free dash, but also you're not expending, a free dash. Yeah, it is just worse, isn't it? Yeah, Monk Car's just worse. But Koyan, Tau fans, let me know. The fighty one, you get to do a free Markalite action. So that's pretty cool. That's saving you an AP a lot of the time, right? A free Markalite action during your activation if they have a conceal order, but it's still pretty cool. Obviously, the Monk Car, he's actually, not to gloss over it, it is much worse because you have to have a conceal order, but there you go. The Monk Car, I guess you do get the +1 inch when you charge as well, which you wouldn't with a free dash because it's not free of restrictions, it's just a free action. But how often are you charging with Tau? Like, I wouldn't have assumed a lot, right? So, feels like a buff, question mark. I edited the question mark off the slide again, and now I wish I hadn't. Like, yeah. It's a change. It's a side grade. I'm sure they had a rhyme for their reason. Seems like a weird ability to meddle with, but that's what they meddled with. And that's the Tau, ladies and gents. The Hierotek Circle. Reanimation Protocols is long, and I do not want to read the whole thing. So, let me give you the crib notes. Living Metal is once again after reanimation. Right? So that's cool. You're reanimating on a 3-up, not a 2-up, not a 4-up, it's a 3-up. Okay, you come back on D3 +1 instead of D3 +2, but you get to then do Living Metal, so it's not that much of a problem. You can erode your opponent's kill grades. This is this new mechanic where you gain VP for killing. When a Necron comes back, you ungain the VP, which is really annoying and funny for the Hierotek player. Now, I've buried the lead, but I have underlined it on the slide. You can only reanimate one model per turning point with this rule. So the way this works is you say, I want to reanimate him, picking obviously your best guy, and you roll, and if you don't get the 3-up, you then have to go, okay, well, I'll try and reanimate him, and you roll, and if you don't, you keep going until you roll a 3-up, and then you get to reanimate that guy, and then you stop, right? Now, the guys that you failed to reanimate aren't removed, they can try again next turn to reanimate. Now, we don't know if other parts of the team, like I'm especially thinking there's the little reanimation drone, which surely must give you a second reanimate while it's alive, otherwise what's it for? And then you've also got the one cryptic whose whole jazz was buffing your reanimation. Again, will he give you a third reanimate? We don't know, because we haven't seen the whole team. So don't think, oh gosh, I'm definitely only getting one reanimation. You might only be getting one reanimation a turn, right? But you're not definitely only getting one reanimation a turn. The rest of the team is still to come. But certainly from the main rule, the main reanimation protocols rule, one every turn. Tesla Weave, yes please. Right, so Tesla Weave has been reworked. It used to be like you give it to a guy, and when he charges, you roll 3 dice, and on a 3-up, each dice can do a mortal wound or something, so you can do between 0 and 3 damage. Now, it's for your whole team. Whenever an enemy operative ends a charge action, you inflict D3 damage on it for each friendly Hierotek Circle operative within its control range. Yes, please. So, whenever you charge me, you take D3 damage. And if you dare to charge 2 of me, right, you take 2d3 damage. That's... Like, I know you're a team that doesn't want to be in combat, right? You don't really have that many combat guys. But, like, I've been charged by something with 8 wounds, and I've just done d3 damage to it. Suddenly means, right, it might well have, 5 wounds left, which is kind of a big deal, is it not? I don't know, like, seems really, really, really good. Tesla weave me up if I ever play and paint my Necrons, but Tesla weave me up, yes? Living Lightning is a brand new tactical ploy. Now, this one's going to take some explaining, okay? So use this firefight ploy when a friendly Hierotek Circle Immortal operative is performing the shoot action and you select the Tesla Carbine. Until the end of an action, the weapon doesn't have the 2 inches from Devastating, but has the 2 inches blast instead. What? I thought Devastating was the new word for mortal wounds. Yes, but they kind of smashed Splash and Mortal Wounds, and also like Reap, which is the close combat version of Splash, all into one rule. So you can have Devastating with a number for the number of wounds it does. You can also have Devastating with a number for the number of wounds it does, and a number for its number of inches. So that number of inches is effectively what Splash used to be. So it's like you do. Say you do 2 mortal wounds with your Devastate. If it has 2 inches, it also does those 2 spillover wounds to everybody within 2. So what this is saying, presumably, we don't see them, right? The Immortals have this rule, and when you pay for this, instead of doing the little splash damage of 1 or 2 or whatever it will be, they instead get a 2-inch blast, which allows them to do a whole ass second attack, rolling all their dice. Much, much more powerful, right? So it's basically you're buffing your Tesla Carbine from doing a little bit of splash damage to people within 2 to doing whole ass second attacks to everybody against 2, which is pretty good, right? I think so anyway. Obviously, we need to see the actual Immortal stat card and the rules for Tesla Carbine and everything else. Which stat card did they choose to show us? They chose to show us the Deathmark. So the Deathmark's interesting. The Deathmark has gone up from Mortal Wounds 1 to Devastating 2, but lost a point of crit damage. I guess that's a buff, but meh. He's gained Severe, which is really good. Oh my gosh, I hope that more and more snipers get Severe, because snipers live and die by how many crits they get, and at least with Severe is, if, as I've said before, if you don't roll a crit, you can have, and you have rolled at least 1 hit, you can have a crit instead of that hit, right? You can promote 1 dice. Promote is not a rules term in Kill Team, but it's a term that I think needs to exist. You can promote 1 dice if you haven't got a crit. Good, fine, splendid. He's also gained the ability, like, basically they are buffing him up to put him in line with all the other snipers in Sniper Town, so he doesn't feel sad, right? He's got the ability for 1 AP to remove Obscured. Fantastic ability. Night Lords hate it. Obviously, Obscured is, like, less important in the next edition, but if you look at the mathematically, you probably still don't want to be shooting people who are obscured. You're probably going to do nothing. So removing obscured for 1 AP is still really good. And he also gains an ability that he didn't have before to give out Seek to other Deathmarks. So Seek, remember, is basically indirect. And this is Deathmarked. Whenever the operative ends the shoot action, the target gains 1 of your Deathmark tokens. If it wasn't incapacitated, whenever a friendly Hierotek Deathmark operative is shooting an enemy operative that has a Deathmark token, the friendly operative ranged weapons have the Seek weapon rule. So if he doesn't kill someone, he gains a Seek token on it, which means the next time he shoots them, they have effectively, well, it's not just indirect, effectively it's indirect. It's just, you can't be, cover is never intervening for you, so yeah, it's effectively indirect, which is pretty ridiculously good. Is it good enough to make you want to take multiple Deathmarks? Probably not. And then the weird thing about Deathmarks is their thing before, they've had loads of buffs, but their thing before is that they could forward deploy. That's not on the card. That wasn't on the card before. It was a ploy, right? Do they still have that ploy? Can they still forward deploy? Or have they tried to rework them into more of a sort of sniper assassin and not the Hunters from Hyperspace thing is such an iconic part of Deathmarks. I feel it'd be weird if they didn't if they didn't include that. But what are you going to do? Probably it's still there. Who knows? Brood Brothers. Crossfire is unchanged. Insidious is unchanged, and the Cult Talisman is just it gets the one operative from the team once per turning point change, which is like the default thing when porting over the equipment, which is cool. I'm building Brood Brothers at the moment. I think Brood Brothers are amazing. I'm not glossing over them because I don't like Brood Brothers. I'm glossing over them because they haven't really changed anything. The Brood Brothers data card, again, the Iconward is basically unchanged. The only thing I could see, like reading through this and reading through the previous one, is it used to call out with Broodmind Devotion. So Broodmind Devotion, when a ready friendly Brood Brother operative is incapacitated within 6, use the rule, if you do, it can perform a free action, excluding fight and mind control. It used to exclude fight and mind control and explode, or explosives, whatever it was called. So, assuming the Sapper is unchanged in how he works, if the Sapper now dies next to the Iconward and hasn't put out his explosives, he could use Broodmind Devotion to use explodes to put out his explosive token, and then he would be incapacitated as normal, and the rules on his card would then mean that he could explode the explosives that he'd just put out using the Broodmind Devotion thing, which is... I don't think that's broken. It's like, oh, if your Sapper dies before he had a chance to put his explosives out, he can still do his sort of suicide bomb thing if the Iconward's nearby, which I don't think is terrible, but maybe that isn't the thing, because maybe they've changed the Sapper's card. Everything else on this guy is exactly the same, because he came out in the 3rd season, or 4th season, or the last season, whatever it was, and it's pretty clear that the things in that season were designed... I mean, typical Games Workshop cycle is, after 1 year of the game, they start working on the next version of the game, so by the time they're writing the rules for things that are coming out in the last season of Kill Team, they more or less know what they're also going to be doing in the new edition of Kill Team, right? Hearthkyn Salvagers. Grudge is totally unchanged, don't worry. Excavation tools are totally reworked. I like to tell you what things used to do and what they do now, because I think it's really interesting to see where the designers have changed things and try and think about why. I'm not going to tell you what excavation tools used to do, because it's like a paragraph of bollocks. Excavation tools now are basically, well, I'll read them because they're new. Excavation tools. Friendly Hearthkyn Salvager operatives can perform the pickup marker action for 1 less AP and don't have to control the marker to do so, taking precedence over the other actions conditions. They only need to contest the marker. If you built into that with your tac op choice, right, so you wanted to pick up markers, I could see that being a really good piece of equipment. Right, because being able to just pull markers out from under the opponent and go, no, this is my marker now, and do that for free is pretty cool. Toil Earns is also, I think, a brand new strategic ploy. I'll read it. Toil Earns. Select one objective marker or one of your mission markers. Whenever an enemy operative is within 3 of that marker, treat it as having 1 additional grudge token. So again... You can see from the excavation tools as well, you're really wanting to lean into whatever tac ob it is that lets you put down markers onto the table. I find it interesting. Like, if this had been a rule in the last edition, it would have been within 2 inches of the centre of the objective, and so now it's within 3 of the marker. That's actually quite a big distance, and we're going to have to mentally adjust a lot of these kind of abilities that previously were. You know, when you're standing on the large third-party circle that everybody was using for their objectives, you were under the effect of the thing. Now, if you are using a third-party circle, and I might manufacture one, I'm still on the fence about this, you definitely need that inner 40mm token ring marked, because you're measuring your toil earns from the border of the 40mm official token in the middle, right? Maybe you just want to use 40mm tokens and not have the extra inch around the edge and just measure everything. I genuinely can't decide what the best thing to do is with that. But either way, you definitely need to know where that actual like game legal 40mm circle is. That's the thing. A Salvager's data card. So we got the Hearthkyn Kognitaar. I absolutely despise the little, like, they're just the space lizard men, right? With their stupid pun names, and I despise it because I hate fun. I don't know, like, oh, the Kognitaar. Oh, it's spelt Viking-y, but it's like cogitate, because he does thinking, numbering, adding up stuff. Woo. Oh, no. Go away. Why did they have to ruin the squats? The squats were cool when they were guys with big beards and sunglasses and Harley Davidsons. Anyway, you've got move 5. They had move 5, but they had move 5 in a kind of a, we've got move 4, and then we've got a team-wide special rule to give us all move an extra inch, which was like, okay. So now you've just got move 5, by tape measure. The Ceaseless has become Accurate 1, which is pretty good, right? I'm a big fan of Accurate. Accurate is just, when I shoot, I retain a hit without rolling it. Yep. It's a good rule. Iron Blast is unchanged, Fist is unchanged, Tactician is unchanged. He might have Secure Salvage and Accelerated Appraisal, or he might not, but we can see there at the bottom of the card, rules continue on the other side. They didn't show us the other side, so we assume he probably still has those rules or a version of them, but we don't know. The Hernkyn Yaegirs. So, Dauntless Explorers got massively buffed, right? So Dauntless Explorers used to be like, pick 3 guys and move them 3 inches at the start of the game. I'll read it now. Dauntless Explorers, Strategic Gambit. In the first turning point, each friendly Hearthkyn Yaegir operative wholly within your drop zone can immediately perform a free reposition. Each that does so must end up the move wholly within 4 of your drop zone. So, okay, this has been buffed in a number of ways. First of all, it's the whole team, right? Second of all, it's 4 inches, not 3. But also, it's 4 inches as the crow flies, so you must end your move wholly within 4 of your drop zone, but you've got a 5-inch, spoilers, you've got a 5-inch move to play with. So if you wanted to, like, come round the edge of something, or be on the other side of a barrier, or, you know, generally make use of that extra inch to, like, curve your move, as long as the crow flies, you're wholly within 4 inches of your drop zone, so you've actually got a little bit extra flexibility there as well. So that's pretty cool. Right? You know, I think so anyway. It also works in close quarters, unless there's something in close quarters that I haven't noticed that blanket bans forward movements. This used to have a whole paragraph of what worst thing it does instead on Into the Dark, and it doesn't have that anymore, so that's cool as well. Resourceful is totally unchanged. They have a weird new piece of equipment that I don't like called the KV Ceramide Undersuit. Right, I'll read it because it's new. Whenever an operative is shooting a friendly Hernkyn Yaegir operative, if the ranged weapon in that sequence has the Blast or Torrent special rule, you can reroll one of your defense dice. In addition, friendly Hernkyn Yaegir operatives aren't affected by the X inches devastating X weapon rule, i.e. devastating with the distance, i.e. splash, Elliot, but yeah, sure. You can tell that he's unsure that people are going to actually understand how the devastating rule with its 2 variables works, because he's included that section in the parentheses. And it makes me question whether it was like everything else they've done to improve the writing has improved it. It genuinely makes me question as to whether they should have gone rid of splash or not. But, yeah, because you can tell there's that element of, oh, people aren't going to get this. People aren't going to see the inches, and a lot of people are going to think it means that they ignore the mortal wounds from devastating. It's the distance part, which is only going to be there sometimes. And the armor's okay. I just don't know if spending one of your precious 4 equipment points on ignoring, like getting a reroll against blast and torrent weapons is like the best thing ever. It is team-wide, which is cool. Like, maybe I'm totally wrong. I am very bad at kill team, so there is that. But it doesn't seem good to me. If it seems good to you, let me know in the comments. And a Yaegir data card. So, yeah, as spoiled, you get to move 5 inches by a tape measure. Like, I've had the rant by a tape measure. Balanced upgraded to ceaseless again, so yippee. And then one other little hidden change is the Brazen Killer now only works at range. So on the original edition of the Yaegir Bombast, his Brazen Killer ability, which triggers when he incapacitates an enemy, technically also triggered if he found himself killing someone with his fists in close combat, which wasn't terribly likely, right? But if it happened, you could trigger your ability and reduce APL of someone within 2. Now it has to be with your shooting attack, which is, makes more sense, because that's the thing that he's good at. And we're done. So there does seem to be less changes compared to the Imperium. Like, Kroot got changed quite a lot, I suppose. And they needed it because they're widely regarded as the weakest team, or bespoke team. And that terminology soon to leave. They'll all be bespoke teams, but, so it's good that they've got quite a bit of a rework. I realise I'm living in an alternate universe where Eldar and Chaos haven't yet been analysed. Obviously, I've looked at the Eldar and Chaos articles with my eyeballs and thought about them and gone, oh, Eldar have got an extra inch of move. That's fascinating by a tape measure. I'm really looking forward to Marines tomorrow. So I'm definitely going to cover Marines tomorrow. And then at the weekend, when presumably on Saturday we get no Kill Team article, I'll do either Eldar or Chaos. And then on Sunday, the video is probably going to be about the fact that the preview will probably, hopefully, have gone up. But we'll see. Tape measures. So this has been the sub-rant all through the video. And I've already said it. Like, I'm just slightly furious because I was totally in team colours, shapes, whatever it was, measurement widgets, accessibility, and all the rest of it. But it is like anti-synergy now at this point when you've done this to the rules and you're like, yeah, use these widgets like No Games Workshop. You've made a game now that is no longer compatible with the widgets that you designed for the previous game. Why have you done this? Right? At this point, if they want to put, they should put a tape measure in the box, right? But Games Workshop's never done that in the history of its life. It's a very cheap company in that regard. They could at least put a whippy stick in the box. A whippy stick would legitimately be better than a thing that only goes up to 6, right? Because at least you could fire a pistol with a whippy stick. I'm not wrong. And I know people will get offended because people really like the iconic Kill Team movement tools, and I like them as well. I thought they were cool and they were a cool part of our game. But if you're going to have every pistol be 8, if you're going to have dwarves move 5, if you're going to have elves move 7, then you cannot justify including those movement tools and saying this is the thing you should use in the game. If I'm wrong, if I'm missing something, you need to tell me in the comments, because I'm incensed. Right? Not because I don't think they should have changed it, right? I actually think the game is mechanically better now, but because I think they should have changed the tools they provided in the game. They should have put something else in. Even Age of... It's not necessarily a whippy stick. Age of Sigmar came with this cool little measuring thing that went... I think it goes up to about 10, and it was just a plastic thing on one of the sprues that you clip together, and you've got a little measuring stick. Brilliant. Where's that? Why have we got this old redundant crap that doesn't work with the new edition of the game with all these fancy rules and this fancy guns that shoot 8? Games Workshop. I mean, put an 8-inch stick in the box if pistols are going to shoot 8. I don't want to have to hold thing and then hold the second thing with 2 hands and then go, oh yeah, that's awkward, right? No, one thing. One step. I'm moving on. People have closed the video. If you enjoyed the video and learned something, please consider subscribing and sharing. Thank you. And a massive thank you to all my members. And I want to emphasise that sharing part. A lot of people have commented and you deserve far more subscribers. If you really think so, the best thing you can do after subscribing for yourself is just to tell a friend. Tell your local Discord community. Tell your subreddits. Tell people. Say, I'll tell you what, Impulse, he's cool and funny and stupid. Click on his videos. That will be helpful. A massive thank you to all my members, the people that support me directly financially every single month. You guys are amazing, and you are the guys who I close my eyes and think about when I am wondering if I really want to spend most of my precious evenings every week this week making videos. So thank you for the motivation. Bye-bye, cheery bye, see you tomorrow, when we'll learn about Space Marines. How cool is that? I really do want to know what the Angels of, because they hinted it. They hinted it at the end of the Warcom article. They're like, maybe you're just curious to learn what Angels of the Emperor, whatever they've called it. Like, maybe I genuinely think it is something more fascinating than just the Intercessors by another name. I genuinely think they might have done something really cool where you can buy loads of models from the Space Marine range and or use the old Justian stuff mixed in with the Intercession stuff. That would be really cool. We'll see tomorrow. Bye bye, bye bye, bye bye, bye bye, cheery, bye bye.